Guys, Real Madrid, they got the job done yesterday without key players like Kylian Mbappe, Federico Valverde, Thibaut Courtois. And this opened up room for a guy like 18-year-old Endrick to really shine in this game.
Yeah, like Arda Güler as well. There's an opportunity here to rotate for Carlo. He knows how to manage his squad. Talk about a team that's prioritizing other competitions. Clearly, Real Madrid is prioritizing Champions League and their La Liga title race. A Copa del Rey trophy is welcome, but it's not good enough for Real Madrid that they walk away at the end of the season with only a Copa del Rey. Not only that, it's probably not good enough if they walk away from the season with only a Liga title.
It's always Champions League for them. It's always Champions League. Do you think they would have approached the game the same way if they were playing Atleti or Barcelona in this stage? It's because it's Sociedad, right?
Probably yes.
Yeah.
Because you can't lose again to Barcelona, and you got to beat Atleti because they've shown up. You have been unable to beat them in La Liga so far this season. But I do think there's a certain truth about Real Sociedad not having that cutting edge. They don't have a killer. It feels like it's a lot of Takefusa, Kubo, and company trying.
Mendes,
right?
yeah.
Bryce Mendes, Zubeldia. There's a couple of important guys, but none are really cutthroat. Oyarzabal doesn't even cross over the line to be that guy where you say, Real Sociedad's got it today because of XYZ.
Yeah.
It feels like they're missing a superstar, a killer, a guy that can deliver a certain goal-scoring quota that will help you win at the elite level, not only in La Liga, and not only in Copa del Rey, but in Europa League as well. They're in Europa League, and the final's going to be played in their backyard, and it just feels like this season has been a little bit underwhelming. Mind you, they could pull off the ultimate upset in the Copa del Rey, but it feels like, in Spanish you say, always 2 cents to the dollar. They're not there yet, and this season it feels like their squad is just a little bit short in order to compete across all fronts.
Who do you think Real Madrid would like to face off in the finals of Copa del Rey? Barça or Atleti Madrid?
Barcelona. They want revenge. They always want to beat this team. And again, probably watching that draw versus Atletico Madrid, they were thinking for both teams, we can put up goals on either. But watching Barcelona's high line and the naive defending that they had, I'm certain that they're like, oh my God, like give us another chance. We'll get the timing of the runs much better on this offside trap. And they think that they're going to blitz Barcelona off the field. So I imagine that that's who they want in the final.
We could have 3 of those in the final month of the year that could be decisive for everything for both teams. They play, I believe, on May the 1st in La Liga and El Clasico. They could potentially face off in the Champions League final, and they could potentially play each other in the Copa del Rey final, which would be absolutely remarkable. I do want to make one point, though, because I do think Endrick is worth talking about. A teenager who I think some people had expectations that he would come straight into the Real Madrid team, straight into the Brazil side, and start and play from the off. He's growing into it. He's showing his talent. I have a very dumb take about him, which is it's very obvious to see why scouts would like him. He kicks the ball very hard. But like that chance that he hit off the crossbar was like, whoa, this is an 18-year-old hitting the ball like this. His ball striking is absolutely unbelievable to watch. You can see that the talent is there, but I think that Carlo, knowing what he's doing, is taking his time with bringing him into that side.
That's what I'm a little bit disappointed at. In La Liga, 0 starts, Champions League 1 start. But even that isn't totally shocking, though. I would have liked to see him get mixed in rotation earlier in the season to bring him along so that he's ready to be a big factor this time of the season, particularly coming off the bench. Of his substitute appearances, 1 of them in La Liga was more than 10 or 11 minutes. That's not enough from Carlo Ancelotti for this player.
I feel like we need to be more patient with Endrick, because where are you going to get minutes when you have the fantastic 4 that you have in Jude Bellingham, Rodrigo, Vinicius, Brahim Diaz, Mbappe? Sorry, I messed up the 4, but Mbappe, and then you bring in a player like Brahim Diaz that has shown time and time again that he can change games by himself. He's the ultimate super sub for Real Madrid.
So hypothetically asking, when could he get more minutes?
Next season.
They're up
and the season after that.
They're up 4-1 against Las Palmas in the 57th minute. He played a handful of minutes off the bench at the end of that game. Right. Why is that not 30-minute run-on?
I trust in Carlo Ancelotti. Yes, Endrick could anybody could use more minutes, especially when you have a super talent like Endrick. But look how long it took Vinicius to get ushered in as a starter for
Or
Real
even be
Madrid.
trusted. There's the famous video of Karim Benzema saying, "Let's not pass it on to you anymore."
And that was when Vinicius was starting already for
right.
Real Madrid. There was a whole other season and maybe 2 seasons when he was brought over from Flamengo that they gave him time to grow into his own. And I think Endrick, for as much talent as he has, he's still extremely young.
Yeah.
I think they trust Arda Güler at this point a little bit more than they do Endrick.
And I think in some ways it's part of the conflicting missions of Real Madrid. They have to win everything. And yet part of the way that they've gone about trying to find the next generation of big-time Real Madrid players at least a little bit of value instead of paying $150 million for all of them is by scouting Brazil and scouting players that are that are teenagers. And so you get Vinny, you get Rodrigo, and now Endrick is the latest to the door. And you have to embark on a process with those players, fitting in with the greatest and best players in the world while trying to win everything, while also embarking on a mission of player development. It's not very easy to do. And I do think that Ancelotti definitely errs on the side of playing experience, and he maybe could definitely take chances to play Endrick, maybe 300 or 400 more minutes than he's played him so far this season, but you see the talent there.
Right, and again, like this, I wouldn't be saying this about every single player, but this is potentially like a generational talent is what they hope he can be. You need to be more caught. You can't treat him like every other young player at the club. You
Or
need
send
to
him
make.
on loan.
I think he's best set at Real Madrid. There's so many opportunities to come off of the bench, and he's not getting enough minutes.
I wouldn't send him on loan. I would keep
I would
him
too.
in the house.
Okay.
It's very different this year, and they do have a very tough stretch of games in this next month. And Nico, you said it yesterday that the next time that we reach this leg 2 of these semifinal games versus Barca, Atletico Madrid, they could be a flop or they could be the best team that Diego Simeone has ever coached.
That's the margin that Atletico Madrid is walking on right now. It could go either way because they have 4 games, I would say, before that second leg of the Copa del Rey semi-final that could be pretty definitive. Starting this weekend against Athletic Club, a team that's sitting in 4th in La Liga, and you don't want to lose pace with the top dogs, one of which is Barcelona, that you're playing again before the second leg. So these are very mentally demanding games that Atletico Madrid are going into, just like the one yesterday. They have that relentless competitive spirit, which is great, but hopefully it doesn't burn them out because you can't put those performances together one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and not expect to be burnt out. So there's a essence of control that I think Atletico Madrid fans would like to see in their team before they kind of go guns blazing into the most critical part of the season.
Julian Alvarez, what rating are you giving him, Tom?
I'll go with an 8. I thought he was really strong for Atletico Madrid. He was integral to the start of the game, again, with the goal, with the assist. He typifies this attack the way that he kind of moves and makes players around him better while getting his. I thought he was very good on the day. 8.
Yeah, I'll go for an 8 as well. 5th goal in Copa del Rey. He has been a really top-level performer, I would say, for the last 2 or 3 months. It was a bit of a slow start for him. He is fitting into this team. He's a perfect identity fit for Diego Simeone, and I really do appreciate the way that this player has developed. Let's be honest, when you're kind of in the shadow of Erling Haaland at Manchester City, there is a different expectation. He played in every Premier League game. He was an important player for Manchester City, but there's a different thing when you are relied upon to deliver the goods game in, game out. I think he's starting to live up to that now.
Yeah, and he's growing and he's turning into a different type of player. He was a compliment. He was a sensational compliment to Erling Haaland. That's why for me, graphics, 8 and best player of the game. Although Atletico Madrid didn't dominate, but his shift that he put in was worthy of a man of the match performance, and he goes from being that compliment to Erling Haaland, playing beautiful football. I think there was such a sensational compatibility between those two, and now he's really taken ownership of his role at Atletico Madrid, so much so that it's invaluable. I'm throwing money at the wall for this type of player. If he's going to be running like he's running in the 89th minute physically, you must say, and I'll give Atletico Madrid their physio or their fitness trainer, I'm giving him an 11, right? Because the way that Atletico Madrid is running to the 90th minute is sensational.
Sensational compatibility. That was beautiful, Nico. I'm going to steal that.
So you look at some of the players that this team has, that Atleti has, that really impacted this game. Some new signings over the summer, so it's time for our Zillow new home search. Guys like Julian Alvarez, Alexander Sorloth. I mean, Alvarez scored the first goal for Atleti to start it off, and Alexander Sorloth is the one that helped get them the goal.
Yeah, the equalizer.
Yeah, the equalizer. I'm slacking here.
And he scored the late-winning goal in the La Liga match. For me, Alvarez, I think, is the pick of this bunch. When you look at the 20 goals that he has now, having scored his 20th on Tuesday night.
You see that 82 million price tag on Julian Alvarez, but he's invaluable. What he brings to the table, no one else in Atletico Madrid can bring. Without Julian Alvarez, this Atletico Madrid team wouldn't be what they are right now.
This was one of those signings where we talk about the transfer market all the time. We talk about what does a team need, who could be fit. This was the most no-brainer transfer, and it came to be, and it's working out exactly as they hoped.
But there were questions at the beginning.
Yep.
They were very impatient with Atletico Madrid, with Julian Alvarez, the media. And I mean, you don't have to convince me, right?
Who cares?
Yeah,
But I do think, though.
but he's come through.
He has 25 goal contributions in just over 2,500 minutes. So we looked at that stat, like, again, going by appearances, which makes sense. But his per game ratio, his per minute ratio, the underlying numbers, he's in the dark green towards like the 85th percentile and better among La Liga forwards, among Champions League forwards, among everybody. This is a world-class player. This was an excellent signing.
Yeah, and I do think that with Atletico, they don't have the resources that everybody else does. And so when they take a swing like this, it has to connect. And we've seen them kind of have this last era stunted by the swing they took, for example, on Joao Felix, on Thomas Lemar, that didn't quite work out. And so for Julian Alvarez to actually be delivering, it was close to a guarantee, but it wasn't a complete guarantee that it worked out like this. And he has now really started in these last 2 or 3 months to hit his stride, and now he has to carry this team into the business end of the season.
Winnie, how about Javi Galan? What would you give him for his performance yesterday?
I mean, he was probably lucky to not get subbed off at halftime. I'll probably give him a 4. Oh, I mean, actually, I'm probably down. I'll go 3. Sorry, graphics team. 3. Yeah, I'll give him a 3.
Base is always 4,
yeah.
So you're going even lower.
Yeah. I'm going for a 3 just because when you are absolutely tormented. And you probably should be subbed off at halftime, and they're conceding those goals, and Lamine Yamal is having you on toast. I think when you become the liability of the team, I think you have to drop that rating that little bit lower.
So for me, it's a 4. Yes, he had his hands full. I don't know if he got torched the whole game because there were a couple of duels that he won with Lamine Yamal individually. He did get booked, and in our group chat, when I asked for the sub at halftime, when I said Reyninho for Galan, I wanted it because he was booked and because Lamine Yamal was going to keep on attacking him. He needed to be removed, and Cholo reacted a couple of minutes later after the half in order to switch over for Mandava.
3. He couldn't handle Lamine Yamal. Not many players can, but he struggled really bad on the day.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to give him an 8. I think that Rafinha was probably the more impactful player in the game, in my judgment, but Yamal still was absolutely cooking down that right side and absolutely giving the Atleti fullback Javi Galan an absolute run around for the course of the game. So Yamal delivering that creativity. We're talking during the break. I think this Barcelona side are creative against absolutely everyone they come up against, and Yamal is such a key part of that. So I'll go for an 8.
8 for me as well. He typifies what this team does in the attack. It's such beautiful, tantalizing football with a youthful exuberance. But the duality of this team is how poor and naive and shocking, honestly, defensively they were. But looking at the attack, looking at Lamine Yamal, he delivered. He was absolutely cooking every single time he got the ball on that flank. He was awesome. 8 for me.
Yeah, I think he would have needed like a goal. I understand his assist kind of opened up the game for Barcelona at one point, and it could have been a little bit greater the difference that Barcelona set. Well, there was really no difference, but at one point the game could have been 3-0, right? For Barcelona, they looked like a 3-goal difference for Barcelona, not 3-0. There was a chance that Lewandowski missed, but Lamine Yamal was very involved. For me to give him an 8, I would have liked like another goal or another assist because he was cooking. Javi Galan had his hands full the entire game up until he was subbed off. So I'm going to give him a 7, and that definitely sets my standard for the rest of my grading today.
And that's what they're used to seeing with Diego Simeone. It seems like 4-4 draw is the antithesis of what we're used to seeing with this club. It was a lot of fun. It was wide open. It was really sloppy on both sides. But this is not what we're used to with this team. It is a completely different iteration of Atletico Madrid right now.
And I think it is an indication somewhat that this isn't necessarily the competition that they are prioritizing. Now you can kind of have a little bit of a shift in mentality because the second leg is not for 5 weeks, which is a very bizarre feature of this Copa del Rey. But I think because it's not for 5 weeks, you can say we're playing a first leg as long as we don't get smoked in the first leg.
But they almost did, though.
Right.
Right?
I don't think they should have.
I disagree in the sense that they're not prioritizing the Copa del Rey. Atletico Madrid has been put together. They have a super team, Chris. They can't afford to just say, all right, Copa del Rey, meh. Against Barcelona, meh. Because by the time they get around to the second leg, they could be out of the Champions League to Real Madrid. They could be out of La Liga title race way too soon. And then you got to make do with a Copa del Rey. The way that this team has been put together, you look at it on paper, and you must compete on everything. I couldn't imagine a Real Madrid or a Barcelona saying, Copa del Rey, we'll brush it to the side when you're playing one of the other top teams in Spain.
Especially when all the big three giants are into the semifinal stage.
How about Pedri, who got the first goal for Barca?
Yeah, I'll give him a 7. I understand that he does get a goal in the game, and he is such a wonderful operator in that midfield. He does such a great job of drifting in between the lines and popping up in good spots. I do think that when you give up 4 goals and you're meant to provide some of that balance in midfield, that some of that responsibility falls to him. So I'll give him a 7 for the game.
Yeah, I'm leaning 6 just because, as you said, Woody, I think a lot of their issues came in defensive transition, and I don't pin that totally on Pedri. I think that has much more to do with Frankie de Jong. He cannot be the single pivot or double pivot in this kind of game, in this kind of team. You look at some of those athletic goals and some of their chances, it was just really naive and silly. So I'm not pinning all of that on Pedri, but you know who you're playing with and what the game requires. He needed to do a little bit more defensively again. Going forward on the ball, he was very, very solid. I'll give him a 6.
For me, it's a 7. There's a thing that Barcelona has, which is balance, and he offers a lot of that balance and control. For the large bouts of this game, Barcelona controlled it. Now there's questions that Hansi Flick has to ask himself as to why they're losing control all of a sudden at the beginning and towards the end, and why they shut off and why they're not able to see a game like this out. But the main guy to that success and to that balance and to that control of these large majority of the bouts of these games is because of Pedri.
You guys keep talking about the defensive issues of this team. So what would you grade Jules Koundé?
I'd say a 5. Look, again, he created the goal with an assist. But you look at the highlights that Woody just ran through so expertly. He was charging forward. It's just such naive defending. And he has a much different job this year than he did under Xavi. Hansi Flick wants his fullbacks to get forward. And that's where they're exposed defensively. So that's, again, when you concede 4 goals and he was around it as much as he was, the assist was really nice. What I want from a fullback, again, somebody who it was a center back when signed and who can play center back, and that might be his best position in the future. Who knows? For somebody like this, I care more about defensive acumen.
I'll go for a 6. I'll go for a 6 just because of that attacking involvement. Understood that when you're a member of the back line, when you give up that many goals, that you're probably not going to get a 10. But I do think that Koundé has, in my view, fairly dramatically improved in getting forward and picking up the right ball, not just getting into that position, because he got into that position plenty.
Providing assists, being an impact maker, difference maker.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
He's
been
sensational.
Much better creatively, in my view.
Jules Koundé, but yes, a member of the backline, especially when you play so high and you do concede 4 goals and you get exposed, especially on that left-hand side that at one point Atletico Madrid really started channeling that area. Their attack was going through that area of the field. I can't give him higher than a 5.
I think
without a doubt, I understand that Champions League is the most important, and La Liga too, almost at the same level.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like we're minimizing their Copa del Rey effort here, because they could have potentially a final, if they do make it to the final, against Real Madrid. And because it's a 4-4 game, saying that they don't necessarily care as much about this game, I don't think any footballer goes into a game saying, all right, we don't care about this, just let's go and have it be vibes football. The nature of the game, having had those 2 very early goals, kind of set the tone for Barcelona to have this counter reaction into the dynamic of everything that was playing out, so much so that they got 4 goals. Yes, there were a couple moments that were extremely uncharacteristic of a Cholo Simeone-led Atletico Madrid, which is concede 2 goals from a corner kick at the same post, almost identical, right? Cholo Simeone is not going to be happy about that, and he's going to have to sort those things out. But from what I heard Cholo Simeone say in the press conference is that he's proud of the team.